this giant gap, but there's not really too much I can do about that without changing around the whole gameplay, and I really like how this gameplay flows, I'm going to be real. So I don't really want to change that, but that's okay because I've got another idea. When in doubt, add a foreground, baby. Look at this foreground lava, hell yeah. Playing this part in normal mode, the lava sort of follows you around where you go in the level and covers up the bits where the gameplay isn't. The black outline on this lava isn't something I've really done before, I don't think, but I think it looks really cool. I actually really like that. Let's just say I'm definitely going to be doing that more often, not gonna lie. And with that, well, the entire part was complete. Yeah, not many elements to this, but that's exactly what we want in this level, right? It's also a bit of a weird, awkward little transition part that's way more intense than the rest of the level, so I think doing it more in this like impact-based style rather than more like calm and focused on colors, I think works really well. Alright, so this next part of the song just felt robot to me. I don't know, it felt very robot-like. And as per usual with this level, if I just have a feeling of how things should be, I'm gonna act on that feeling, so a robot part it is. I did a lot more disjointed, sort of floating structures, and I think that works pretty nicely. I wanted to do some more frequent speed changes, similar to what you see in a level like Thinking Space, right? It's very kind of old school feeling, matching the 2.0 vibe a lot, but it's also just something I find really fun personally, just having a bunch of random speed changes in there, so I wanted to do it myself. In terms of the rest of the deco for this part, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of running out of block design ideas. I've built so much level these past few days that I don't know, I'm finding it hard to come up with ideas, so I'm gonna try and move on to other aspects of deco, which in this case includes a saw design, some of these connected deco bits going all the way up to the sky, and these pulsing sticks, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I'd get a little bit more inspired after building some of these other elements, but it kinda hasn't happened yet, so I'm just gonna move on for now. I'll come back to it later, I'm sure I'll think of something then, right? When building the gameplay for this robot part, I sort of just put a mini wave portal after it, just as something to put there, and every time I playtested the level, I sort of was just doing a click pattern similar to what you'd see in the first part of Grief. Look man, I like the level. And so I figured why not honor that and try and build a part very similar to Grief. I thought it would be fun to do two different layers of fuzzy slopes, one that's no touch that you can go straight through, but you can try and fit through if you want to like go the pro route, I guess, and then the regular fuzzy slopes that actually kill you. I added a few speed changes throughout this part that slowly speed you up as you progress through this part, which I think is really cool and matches the song quite well. That design was really basic though, I'm not gonna lie, so I went ahead and added some inner slopes in here that sort of follow a very similar thing of like a sort of holographic outside and a solid inside, similar to what was seen in the first ship of the level as well actually. Second ship. It's the second ship. But anyway, you get the point. And so yeah, I basically copied that design by adding some of the exact same slopes on top of some of these like 1.6 club step slopes here, and I think that looks really good. Adding a bit of glow in there, oh my god, I'm so happy with how this turned out. For some reason in the platform mode version, there are a bunch of lines through it, but that doesn't happen in normal mode, I swear. And finishing it off, I decided to actually add a custom background, as you can see here, which just uses some of those 1.4 blocks, I think. I don't know, the Clutterfunk blocks, you can see them in the background there. They sort of move behind you using that one like target mode option on the move trigger. Pretty handy, it means you can go all sorts of different speeds and it sort of still acts like a background in the same way, right? Adds a bit more variation and variety behind these sort of like semi-transparent slopes here. I think that's good. When I was playing this part through in the editor, I thought it was really fun to try and fit through the middle slope and decided to even make it a coin. As I was playtesting this for the first time though, this coin was way too hard. So I went ahead and added some movements so that every time you go through a speed change, it opens up just a little bit more. And this really helps to not only make the coin a lot easier, but also make the part a little bit easier as well, because it was a little bit difficult, I'm not gonna lie. This also helps to make the part look a lot more dynamic, which is always a good thing. The coin was still really hard, so I nerfed the hitboxes a lot, but it is still really hard, I'm not gonna lie. But it's a coin, so I figured it was fine. It's a fun extra challenge if you want to try and go for it. I sure hope your wave carried. And with that, the part was already done. This part is incredibly simple, just literally one slope design, but I feel like it executes what it was trying to go for really well. And also, a lot of people got the reference to Grief, so I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, well with this part done, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day here. I've been building for a little bit now, and I think I'm just gonna come back to it tomorrow. Was the original plan until I decided that actually I wasn't done for today. Everything I've built in day 3 so far was done in the morning, so I decided I wanted to come back in the evening to try and maybe even finish the level off. The level is 1 minute and 9 seconds at this point, so all I need to do is decorate this robot part and then extend it just a little bit more so it goes to a pretty fitting point of the song. I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of overworking on the level, but I do need to get it done at some point, so let's get it done. Which, speaking of things that need to get done, I think I'm going to work on this robot part, finish it off. Let's go. I started off filling in the block design with a very basic block, just the Airborne Robots block, you know it. I gave it a little area move sort of effect, similar to what you see in Airborne Robots, and I think it turned out pretty well. Smacked on a bit of glow, I don't know, it's very basic, very simple, but it does the job. I've added a few more other details, like some arrows around the place that are literally copy-pasted from the last part, a new ground spike design, and some orb deco. Very basic stuff, but it just sort of serves to be there and make the part not look empty. And after adding a little custom background, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this part complete. It's probably the most uninspired part of the level, I'm going to be so for real, but that's alright. It's a level I'm building in 4 days. Not every part can be creative genius, you know? Looking back, I probably should have added some more pulses and probably some more air deco as well, but oh well. Okay, so the next part of the level. I think this is going to be the last one, I'm going to be real. If I just build a part for another 10-15 seconds maybe, that reaches a pretty good point in the song to where I feel like I could end the level off. And since this is the last part, I wanted to make it count, so I'm going to try and go all out with the structuring. I'm going to make it a ship part, so it's a classic tried easy demon ship where I can focus more on the structuring, and I'm going to start with these guys right here. I remember seeing a tutorial on how to decorate years ago that taught you how to make these big circle objects, which is kind of weird because these aren't things that you see very often. But hey, whoever made that video thought that was the end all be all of decoration, I guess. And this is something I actually followed in one of my really old unfinished levels, but I didn't want this to be the only focal point of the part, so I went ahead and added some of these, which I'm gonna make move up and down slowly, just as like sort of a secondary main part. So you kind of go through one of these, then you go through this, and then you go through this, and then you go through this type of thing, kind of alternate between them. I don't know, it helps make these not feel too repetitive and just kind of break it up a little bit. And then to fill in the space in between those, I decided to add some crazy shaped pillars, just like so. Some of them are some pretty funky shapes, but I think they'll work pretty well to sort of guide the player towards the correct openings in these circles and just sort of, I don't know, act as extra obstacles, I guess. Looking at this part from a whole so far, this is probably my favorite structuring style I've done in the level so far. I think it looks really, really cool. You know you've done a good job structuring when it looks good with just the outlines. That being said, it is time to start decorating them. Which I want to start off with the circles here, and I just did a very basic design for these. I started off with a spike with a chain in it and just sort of rotated it all the way around to create these circle objects. Added some rotating objects in the middle, added a rotating object on the outside, and it's looking pretty good. Pretty simple, but there's not really too much else you can do with these, to be honest. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. Next up is the pillars, where I've decided to go with just a basic brick with some black pulsing white objects over the top of it. I did some connector deco for these objects, and I actually varied it up across the different structures, so you can see this one uses that type of connector deco, this one uses that one, this one uses that one, whatever. And I also changed up the brick size as well, so you can see this one uses smaller bricks, this one uses the bigger bricks. And combining all of those together, it adds a lot of variation without actually changing up the design of the structures at all. Especially this later section here where it turns into wave, it sort of like breaks it up a lot more. This doesn't look nearly as repetitive as it otherwise would, right? These structures do still feel like they're missing something though, not gonna lie. Boom. Inner outlines. I try not to do these all too often because they feel a little bit generic, I find, but in this case, I feel like it works really, really well. Making them pulse white, like you see here, gives a really interesting vibe and sort of makes it feel like they're shrinking and growing almost. I don't know, it looks clean, it ties everything together, I like it. While I was building this, it felt pretty fitting to make these giant circle objects rotate, so that's exactly what I did. I made sure that the gameplay lines up when you play it in normal mode and just made them rotate really slowly around the middle. Pretty simple. And I think it turned out really cool. It makes them feel a lot more grand for some reason and makes them feel a lot more in place for some reason. I don't know why it does that, but it just kind of does, I feel like. All right, now we're getting into the end game of this part. I think the next step that I want to try and take is with these objects that sort of move up and down right here. Normally with stuff like this, I like to try and add some form of like a semi background that sort of holds it in place, feels like it's on a slider, you know? Which for that, I wanted to try and do some rock objects like you can see here. I was a bit worried these would look a little bit noisy, but honestly, I reckon it's fine, especially when you're breezing through in normal mode. You kind of don't really, they don't stand out too much, you know? And to make them stand out even less, I decided to add them as another semi-background element that's just throughout the whole part. You can see there's quite a few of them around here. And I also gave them a bit of a pulse. The pulse is to like the bell noise that you hear in this part of the song that's sort of introduced in this part. Bit more song representation, it's always welcome. All right, awesome. Well, with this semi-background in place, there's only one more detail I feel like I need to add to fill in some of these empty spaces here and like in this middle part part in here, which, just for a little bit of cyclicality, I decided to add in these connector deco bits here that were right at the start of the level. I think they work really, really well, kind of tying the whole level together in a way, but also tying together this part in general as well. Hey man, these are good bits of deco, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know what I mean? And after adding a few hue changes into the mix, this part is looking really cool. This is actually like one of my favorite parts in the level, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the hue shifts make it feel pretty climactic, as you don't really see hue shifts with like the main colors this dramatically earlier in the level, right? I just think this is a really solid way to end off the level. Alright, now for the proper ending of the level, I wanted to put this dash orb in here as a wave click, just to be like, not a super difficult last click, but something to kind of get the nerves going, you know? I like having a bit of a difficult last click. And then I turn you into wave, and I put a little GG here, just to sort of bring back that like old school feel to it, you know? Gave it a nice fading effect, I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I did think about putting a triple spike here, but I didn't do it, alright? I thought that would be a little bit too evil for a level this easy, so I left it out. You're welcome. Alright, well that is all of the parts pretty much done in the entire level. I reckon what I'm going to do now is give it to a few people to playtest and then hop back into the editor tomorrow, just to fix up any little gameplay things and any little deco things that I'd like. So after uploading an unlisted copy and giving the ID to a couple people, it's time for The playtesters came through really well, and I ended up fixing a lot of little gameplay things and a lot of little visual things in the level as well. Stuff like making this transition into the alternating